Okay, so if you see this my screen,
Yeah, yeah.
right, I have one Docker is installed on my laptop, and you can see one icon over here, right? Docker icon. So this is my laptop. If you just go here, and you'll get lots of other features of Docker desktop. Okay, not only whatever we are working so far, actually working in the Docker commands and everything. So if you use Docker desktop, they have given lots of other features where you can just directly you can find the documentation, the start guide, troubleshooting, and Kubernetes. Also you can start and stop Docker from here itself. Okay, restart. If you want to restart, you will restart the Docker engine, Kubernetes, everything. And if you want to see the dashboard, just click the dashboard. It will give you the Docker dashboard in very good UI and it visualized form. Okay, so just 1 second, it will be come up immediately. Yeah, so
Yeah, it's very good. Then we'll also try.
yeah, so these are the Docker desktop GUI, right? You can see what are the things. This is the one application is running on currently on my laptop. Okay, this one of the project Kubernetes project is running still. Two containers are running. Okay, and if you see the images, what are the images? These are the images available. What are the commands we are executing, right? Docker command, Docker container, and ls hyphen a. Same things is giving.
LSA, yeah, yeah.
And the
It's
volume,
giving
what
here
are,
also.
yeah, what are the volumes available, it will display. I don't have any volume, so you can even create a new volume directly here. So actually it is a user interface, Docker desktop, and they are upgrading it. Actually, if you want to, I had upgraded recently, so I got it. And they have different, this is a free open source one, right? So this, I have the free versions of Docker. They have business and enterprise versions, so we can they're charging for those business and enterprise Docker desktop. So you can get for free tier, and you can just install Docker desktop on your laptop. Try to install everyone. I'll just suggest you, because see,
Ah, correct.
Kubernetes we require minimum 4 GB of RAM, minimum 4 GB of RAM, and 8 GB is actually, it will be good to work with 8 GB of RAM. Otherwise, it will not work. So if we go for 4 GB of RAM in the AWS, then you have to pay something, because you have to go for higher instance type. T2 micro will not work, because T2 micro only 1 GB RAM they are providing. So we have to select for 4 GB RAM minimum. And if you're selecting for 8 GB RAM, based on that you have to pay to use their services, right? AWS.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to pay for that. If you can able to install Docker desktop on your own laptop having 8 GB of RAM, that is good. If you don't have, then pay something to AWS and then use uh, Kubernetes
Ah,
their
for
platform.
4GB.
Yeah, minimum
Mm-hmm.
take 4 GB, and I'll just tell you how to. I'll just show you how to do that. Okay, don't worry about that. Uh, okay, guys. So, okay, let me close this. What we'll discuss, okay, last class we have
Yeah.
discussed about the Docker file and the Docker file commands and everything. So I had given a task to go
Ah,
with all other Docker file commands and try to create one small Docker file, which I think Jitu has already created and had shown in the group. Like, he has already created one simple Docker file and created one image out of that. Try to understand the Docker file, create image, try to put, use the commands, Docker file commands, not the Docker commands, Docker file commands in the instructions file, like the Docker file, and try to build that Docker file and see how it is working. Try to do 3 4 your own image, your own custom image. Okay, that in that way you'll get practiced, and it will be, you'll be hands free, right, experienced. Now, so far we have worked on single container. Okay, single container, so far we have worked on any containers, we have worked on single containers. But today I'll show you how to create multi container using the Docker Compose. Okay, so Docker Compose actually is a tool to use and manage multi containers in Docker. Okay, so I have not written anything theoretical about Docker. Everything is commands and all I have installed, I've written it here. So Docker Compose is nothing but a tool which is being used for create multi-container and manage it. Okay, so if you go there, Docker documentation, right? Okay, let me first sign into the, okay, anyway, it is not required, because Docker Compose even required minimum of 2 GB RAM. Docker Compose is required minimum of 2 GB RAM. If you install and work on the Docker Compose, what will happen? It will break. But still, I'll show you how you can do that. One second. This account is not working.
So AWS, Ranjit, we cannot take, or
No, no, no. For Docker Compose, you can take it for you can take it T2 Micro. You can still install it, but thing is, it will slow down it.
mm-hmm.
When you open, it will slow
Ah,
down.
okay, okay,
Okay?
correct.
Because
Slow down.
1 GB RAM is not sufficient for Docker Compose because we are running multi-container. If your application is heavy and it will be consuming more, because I'm going to run one Java application. Now I'm going to show you one
Mm-hmm.
project of Java application, and it will consume all of our memory. So it will slow down the system. Okay.
Yeah, got it. Got it.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now, let me just create and try to install it. And before that, let me show you what is the Docker Compose. Okay, so there is one documentation. I'll just ping you. You can follow this documentation for installations of Docker and all. Okay, now
So Ranjit, please put it into this Word file also, so that anyway we'll be sharing this one, so we'll get it from there also.
okay, okay, sure. So then we start.
Yeah.
Okay, the what is that? It's just given the installation all informations about the Docker Compose and all these things. So if you go for the overview of Docker Compose, right, what it says, Compose is a tool. What I say, Compose is a tool for defining running multi-container Docker applications. Okay, so what we have to write here, we don't have to write any single simple text file or anything. We have to write one YAML file. We have to write the YAML file. So YAML, most of you know this YAML file, right? YAML is yet another markup language. The full form of YAML is yet another markup language. The XML format, this is the big brother of XML. Okay, so whatever the extended markup language we are writing, it is the another format of markup language. Okay, so we are going to use, and it's very easy to use. Don't worry, it's very easy to use the syntax of YAML. So what it says, with Compose, you use a YAML file to configure your application services. Okay, so we have to just write one YAML file, because see, single container, we don't have to write anything. We have to just single execute the commands, run command, and it will create the container, because we are running on the single containers. But think about in which scenario, the question will be there, in which scenario you are going to run your Docker Compose. So when we are talking about the single container will not fall into the microservices architecture. If you think of the microservices architecture, what happens? We segregate and separate all the applications and connect each other using this microservices architecture. What happens? Your UI will be in a different container, your database will be in different container, your business logic will be in different container. All three containers will link each other and will make one applications will be running, right? But in case of single container, single applications, what we are going to do, we are installing everything in that container. Like we'll be installing HTTP, Apache server, or Java Tomcat server. In that Tomcat server, we are going to put our code. We are going to install database inside that, right? MySQL. What we're going to do, then deploy our application in that container. So we'll have one single container having what, our server, Tomcat server, UI server, our database, our business logic code, everything will be there in single container. If suppose what happens, that actually falls into our monolithic architecture, because everything again, whatever we are doing in one machine, all the applications, everything there in one server, the same thing we are also getting in one container. Okay, to overcome that and to make this actually microservice architecture, we are going to use this multi-container, where we are segregating and separating our applications into different container. And using this tool, will link all these containers together so that our application will work seamlessly. Okay, so here is a syntax of writing one YAML file. Here is a simple syntax of writing one YAML file. Okay, Now, if you see here, okay, don't we'll look into this. Let's first talk about how to install and all. Then I'll discuss on the project I have created. Okay, the compose have different versions, version 1 and version 2. So I'm just checking the version 2 of that. So install compose, if you go there, so what is the prerequisites they have given? Like docker compose relies on docker engine. Definitely you should have installed docker before using the docker compose. So docker compose is a tool. Remember, we have to install docker compose. It will not come by default with docker. Okay, so you have to install it on desktop system like Docker Desktop and Mac. Docker Compose is included part of. Okay, if you are using Docker Desktop, then it is part of the Docker Desktop. So that's why I told you, right? I just installed
Uh-huh.
Docker Desktop, and I got what I got. I got both Docker Desktop as well Docker Compose as well as Kubernetes. Everything packagedly installed for me. I don't have to separately install Docker Compose, separately install Kubernetes on my system. I simply install
So
Docker.
Ranjit, both are same organization. Sorry, Ranjit, sorry.
Same
So
organization.
Kubernetes and Docker as part of same organization. How it is
No, no,
clubbed
no, no,
actually?
different, actually different. I'll tell you. Uh,
Different. Okay.
so Docker Kubernetes is totally different, but it is
Different.
actually, yeah, as it has taken high demand in the market and has lots of features. So people are moving towards the Kubernetes. Okay, so the Kubernetes is totally
Okay.
entirely different. I will discuss further on that. Okay, let's focus
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Uh,
now. And what happens if you are going to install separately Docker on your Linux machines? No Docker Desktop. Suppose if you are using, if you are using separately install like we did, install Docker Desktop. Similarly, you have to also install Docker Compose because it will not come with part of that package, Docker package. Okay, so let me, before moving
hmm.
further, let me just start the Docker server, whatever we had installed. Okay, so let it run. Okay, so what we are discussing, yeah, so so we have to install separately.
Compose.
So here I have just given one installation details of this. So what we can do, try to install this. It's very easy. We have to just download using the curl command. Okay, using the curl command we have to just download. Okay, I'll show you, don't worry. uh, okay, so let me just connect to the system. Yeah, it's running now. What is this CentOS? So first I have to start this Docker engine should be running. Okay. System
Hmm.
ctl start doc.
Doc-
Okay. So our Docker is started now. So what I have to do now? Simply just try to download the Docker Compose. Okay. And I'm not using, just using call, what I used call, and I'm downloading this Docker Compose 1.25 versions from GitHub. Okay, from github.com. And I'm after downloading, where I'm keeping, I'm just keeping into user local bin, and the file name I'm just modifying it to Docker Compose. Okay, now hit enter.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I go to the user local bin now, I'll have one Docker Compose file will be there.
File.
See,
Yeah.
Docker Compose, one Docker Compose file. So I need to make it executable. Okay, as per the process, we have to make it executable, and then I am going to create a link. Okay, so just executable, this is a command actually. Docker Compose is a command. Okay, so we have to make it executables. So if I just check what kind of file it is, Docker Compose, if I use Docker Compose, it is actually one executable files. either it is written in C or any kind of Python languages. Actually, mostly it is written in Python language and made it executables. Docker Compose. Okay, it is one executable file, and we have to. That's why we are making it executable. Now,
Yeah.
so my Docker Compose has all executable permissions. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create a link. So in Unix, actually, we have a link like soft link and hard link. If you get some time, just write it down and just try to search in Google what is soft link and hard link. People also call it a symbolic link. Okay, so if you go for that symbolic link,
Uh,
you'll find it. What is that? And just try to read something on that. You may get questions, but normally in DevOps you'll not get questions. But Unix, see, in DevOps we actually normally ask Unix questions and self scripting first, then we jump into that, because that's why initially when we learned tried to learning DevOps, right, that time I told it is actually entirely mindset and it's automations towards your what's the approach towards your automations, right, your approach. So everyone actually most of the time 8 to 80% will be working on the Unix self scripting and Python. So whenever there is a requirement in the company, that you will be definitely find they will be adding Unix and shell scripting or Python and PowerShell. Why PowerShell? Because whatever the Windows part you are going to work in Windows project, you may require the PowerShell and
PowerShell.
batch commands, batch shell, right? Batch. Why batch command? Batch commands is required to automate the Windows part. If you are going to automate something in the Windows, you have to write in the PowerShell or batch. So
Mm.
that's why you have to understand little bit the Unix commands and the shell scripting, how we are going to do that. So here is ln and hyphen s I'm using to create a soft link of this path user local bin docker compose to user bin docker compose. Okay, so I'm just going to do that. So I created a soft link. If I just check it here, go to the user bin cd user bin, and you will find lots of links are there, and you'll find docker compose over here also. Let me grab it. There are lots of things are there.
Great. Lots of things. Yeah.
So here the
Yeah.
docker compose is there, it is linked to this location. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, so just go back to the previous folder. Now our docker is, see here we are not, we did not install anything, we simply downloaded the executable and we are going to use that executable. If I use docker, okay, docker hyphen compose version, it will display you the version. See, 1.25 version is installed. So we did not install anything, we simply downloaded it and made it executable, and we are running this executable. You just go to any folder and just execute this, it will work. Why? Because we linked this user win is actually user win directory, right? This docker compose is actually into the variable, that home directory, the path, right? We need to set up some path. So once you add user bin, whatever things will be there, you can easily access. You can also see docker is, our docker also is there in user bin, right? Docker is also there in user
Yeah. Yeah.
bin. Now, so you now understood how to install docker compose, that's all. And you'll not believe docker compose only have 3 to 5 commands, 4 to 5 commands, that's all. If you understood this 4 to 5 commands to run, then you can manage the docker things, okay, docker compose things. But while writing the YAML file, you have to understand how to write the YAML file. So now let's move on to the okay, this is installations of docker is completed. Okay, now these are all the commands and everything. I'm not going to discuss all this, we'll discuss later. Later in the sense, let me first discuss about the YAML file. Okay, now suppose I'm going to, I have prepared or created one YAML project, docker compose yml. The extension, you can either write yml or YAML. Okay, that should be fine. Here you will be seeing like this is see, you can see I have written all this in the docker compose file. And remember, you have to make the docker hyphen compose dot yaml. It should be in this format, docker hyphen compose dot yml. Okay, now in this yaml file, whatever the services and whatever the containers you are going to create and link, you have to write here everything what I have written it here. See, if you see, let me just minimize everything, then it will be easy for you. Let me db service my php admin volume services. Okay, so here I have written only three things. First thing is, see, and YAML file actually, there you may get a questions, you will be find three dashes, right? That means whatever the YAML file you are writing, you should, it's not mandatory, but if you write the three dashes, that means it is you are writing the YAML file. The first file should start with three dashes. Okay, after that you will be seeing
Okay.
one version here. After that you'll be seeing one version. What is this version? This
Okay.
version is 2. That means I'm not telling about any versions about this docker compose file. This version is the versions of the docker compose. Which version of docker compose you are running? I am using docker compose version 2, v2, right? Version 2. So that is the version of docker compose I'm using. Okay, so um what happens here? And okay, before that installations, everything we'll find it updated installation versions here in the Linux also. You can find it here out here. Okay, Linux same things. I just call command change everything whatever I did, everything they have given it here. Okay, so you can find it out easily. Now what I'm going to do, let's discuss on this further. So the next line is services. This is very important. You have to understand what is this service. So in these services, when we created this container, single container, right, that we call is as a container, a single container. But here in docker compose, we'll create containers as a service. Okay, we'll create container as a service. So in this service section, services, what you have to type, you have to, I have created three services. One is Tomcat, which is I have made for my UI, user interface. And then DB sections I have written for my database application. This is my Tomcat container, means UI container. This is my database container, and this is my database management container. Okay, three containers I have created it over here. Okay, now what I'm going to do, if I just maximize this Tomcat container, it's simple things I have written it here. Tomcat, first is build. What is this build? When you okay guys, what is we have used in docker build, right? What is the command uses for docker build? What it will do?
So it will build the image actually, then.
Exactly, so it will the build the image in the current context. So this is the current context where I'm going to build the image. So in the docker compose also you can give the build to,
Build a newly
yeah,
created
build the
Docker
image.
file.
Okay, and the docker file, to build this docker file, and you should have the docker file created.
Yeah, correct.
Should have the docker file created. Now if you see the docker
Hmm.
file here, I have created a docker file. It's very simple. It's very simple. I have not
Yeah, run
mentioned
it.
anything. I have not mentioned anything, only simple from Tomcat 8.5. That means I'm going to use Tomcat image. Okay, I'm going to use Tomcat image. What it will do, if I go for hov.docker, okay, and here you'll see Tomcat, right? If you search for Tomcat here, Tomcat, you'll find it here. This is the official Tomcat image, right? And here I'm going to use the tags 8.5, Tomcat 8 point. So 8.5 lots of are there. So I'm going to use Tomcat 8.5.
First
Should be
one, I
there
think.
somewhere. Yeah. So Tomcat 8.5, I'm going to use it. So here is the official image, and you can go and
Mm.
use that whatever image you want to use. So the Docker file is this one. If I go to the Docker Compose here, Docker Compose file, I have used this one, and then the section comes ports. There, while publishing, right, while creating single container, you used to publish the port, right? Here also same thing we are writing, but we are writing it ports. And if you're writing the ports, and remember this YAML file actually is follow on the Python syntax. Okay, Python. It is Docker Compose is written in Python. So whatever you are writing, you have to focus on the
Okay.
intendant. The because Python is intendant sensitive, right? If you give any extra intendant or less intendant, it will fail. It will throw error. It should be always provide the correct space or tab in between the lines. Okay, and now here I have just given a list where I'm just providing the ports.
So
What is
Ranjit, here tab also fine, no?
tab?
Or space,
If
for
you're
space.
giving tab, then all the lines should be tab.
You have to
If you're
follow.
giving space, you're giving the space. You have to follow the intended rules.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So here 82 is our host port like we do in our container creation, and this is our container port 8080 and 8280. Why 8080 I gave? Because this container, the Tomcat container default port is 8080. Okay, and here 8282 is my host port. I want to access my container UI Tomcat server in this port 8282. That's why I gave 8282. Now what I'm going to do here, the volumes. So I have created a volume of this dot tomcat target. That means whatever the this, if you see this tomcat dot is the current folder where, and if I go to the tomcat, and here I have one login web app folder. One of this is my actually project. This is the project target. In the target folder, I'm going to create a volume of my target folder and assigning to the container path. So remember this user local tomcat and web apps is the containers Tomcat containers root directory, or you can say as application directory, where you have to deploy your application in this web apps folder. That's why I'm deploying this entirely target folder. In this target folder, I have this login web app.war file. This login web app.war file, whoever has worked in Java, you'll understand this is actually web application, Java based web application, and its extension is .war. As soon as we put this .war file in the web apps folder, Tomcat, what it will do, it will automatically unarchive the .war file and create one application for us. Okay, now the links section, because this is our standalone Tomcat. One second, right? Okay, this is our as this is our standalone applications. Okay, I want to link the UI with my database, otherwise I'll not get the data, right? So that's why I have linked the.
Yeah,
Here
yeah.
you have to understand what you are linking. I am linking the service, the DB service, database service name. You have to provide it here, links hyphen DB. Now networks, so I am using the default network section. We don't have any spaces, so bridge network, this is the default network we are working on. Now let's talk about the DB services. So what we have written in the DB services, the same thing in the DB services. Here I have used in two different ways. Here I am showing how you can use build the image and create your default image and use it. And here I can have used the inbuilt image from the registry. Okay, the image from the registry. Same thing, instead of creating a Docker file, also you can type image over here and give the Tomcat 8.5 version, right? So I can what I instead of build, I can use image. I'm just telling you how you can do it. Just try to understand. Okay, here I'm going
Yeah,
to
yeah.
use Tomcat 8.5. So here what happened, I am not building anything, so Docker file is not required anymore. Okay, I am showing you how combinedly you can work on the Docker Compose using building and everything, right? That's why I just added it. So let's do the build. Now, same thing also, like DB database port. As I'm going to use MySQL here. MySQL default database port is 3306. So the ports both side I gave as 3306. Container 3306 and host port also 3306. And MySQL databases. So MySQL database I have created as a DevOps class. MySQL user, suppose Ranjit, and the password I have given something like that. Okay, this is totally is visible. This is totally visible to me, right? But the same thing we can do in a different way. I'll tell you how we can hide it, this database's password, because this is not the right way to write the syntax for database, right? Everything should be hidden, and
Uh-huh.
that will be the past sensitive data should be kept in a secret file, and that should be accessed through this, right? That I'll show you how we can do that.
Do it.
Yeah. Now what I have written it here. So the user password, see, remember this environment variables should be like this: MySQL database, MySQL underscore user, MySQL, this environment variables. In the environment sections I am just using the environment variables, and these environment variables will be used by the container. Okay, and here I have created two volumes. I have created volume one is called the persistent volume, that is var leaf MySQL, the persistent, and the other one is actually the dump directory, look dot dump. This what happens if you go to the dump directory. I have one called DevOps class dot SQL. Here what I'm going to do here, just try to understand. I'm just putting all this database backup. I have taken a database backup. Suppose here if you see dot SQL, what it is written here, simply creating one table user, simply creating one table user into that. Okay, I'm doing nothing else, simply creating the table user. And what I'm going to do in this file, I'm just creating a volume and assigning to this docker entry point init db.d. Remember that you will get a question on this. So whenever you're creating any database, if you add in the anything in the container docker entry point hyphen init db.d, what will happen? Everything inside this state, when the container will initialize, it will be created. Whatever file it will be executed, whatever the file over here, it will be executed. Okay, so now networks, we are this all the services are the same networks. Okay, network default network and default network. Now let's go with the volume, and the as I created here persistent volume here, so we have to create the persistent volumes. See in the volume section, and this volume should be with the in line with version and services. In this section the volume should be persistent volume. I'm going to create the persistent volume. Now if I go to check another service, the database management UI service, if I go and check it here, I have used PHP my admin, that is one of the database management UI, user interface, or GUI, where you can manage your database. Okay, same thing, I have linked our DB, and then the port, actually PHP my admin works on the port 80. Default port is 80, but I have accessed using 8383. And same thing is required to connect your database, that is Ranjit and the MySQL user and the passwords. Okay, the environment variable you have to give like this. So that's all about this Docker Compose file. Remember, I have created three services here. That means it will create three
Uh-huh.
containers. It will create three containers. So tomorrow if you have requirement to add only two containers, then you have to write two services like this. And if you have to create five containers or seven containers, then similarly you have to write seven services in Docker Compose file, and you can link each other to work. Okay, now everything you understood what is this Docker Compose YAML file and how to write all this. Okay, now what
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going to do, I'm going to execute this Docker Compose. It's very simple. There's very simple command,
Uh-huh.
only two commands.
So Ranjit, here actually one question actually.
Yes,
So this port list, so you are giving only one port actually. If there is some requirement of more than one port, we can add also there, right? Port list on
this is okay. Okay,
huh.
suppose you want to add
Uh,
more ports.
oh, individual. Okay, okay.
So it has
One port. Okay,
for
okay.
this service has individual port and this service has this different port, right?
Ah, okay, got it, got it. So I missed
Has
you. Okay.
different
Please
ports
go
are
ahead.
there. Okay.
Hmm.
Now, what I'm going
Please
to
go ahead.
do here, simply going to execute. So
Going to build, yeah.
we have actually our Docker Compose installed and everything is placed it here. What happened? It is stuck.
Yeah. I think Bablu slept.
Bobby, is there?
No, no, no. No, yes, yes, yes. I'm here.
Okay.
We have actually Siba missed today, right? Siba did not join. Okay, let's see. So, I
Uh,
believe Boxy joined. Is Boxy there?
no, Bakshi are not there. We should be 8%, so now it's 6 actually.
Okay, Siva and Boxy did not join today. Siba, Boxy, Parives.
Yeah, Parivesh actually has some medical issue.
Parives also not. Okay, fine. Siba also Boxy. Okay, okay, maybe. Okay, fine. So, what I'm going to do here, let's just, if I see Docker hyphen compose hyphen version, it should be there. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create one folder here, suppose project directory called, or else what I'm going to do, simply from my directory cd desktop. So what I'm going to, I'm copy the entire thing to that server so that I don't have to rewrite everything, right? So hyphen I
Yeah, yeah.
downloads of the entire folder. I'm just copying it. Or what I can do is zip file itself. It will be easy. Zip file, then send os at the IP address. So these commands, guys, you are going to use frequently while you are working on the DevOps, right? SCP, SSH, lots of Unix commands you are going to use it. Just
Yeah,
understood.
run with it. Okay.
Okay, so I'm just trying to 38%, 40, 42, 44. Guys, my battery has already low, I think, low battery seconds on this block. Okay, if you're see my, I forgot the charger. Actually, the charger in my office, actually my farm office, I forgot. I'm at home. If in between, if my laptop goes down, then maybe we'll connect next class. Okay,
Yeah, yeah. So it's
so only it's going to soon. So, okay, let's see. Quick. I can stop.
Okay.
98%, 90%. Okay, 100%. Now, if I go here, I just copy it. Okay, I copied this Tomcat file. What I'm going to, let me unzip this one. So the command is unzip and the file name, right? Oh shit, unzip is not
Yeah.
installed. So I have to install unzip first. Unzip
Not available.
available. So I have to use and the zip utility on sudo install.
Otherwise, Ranjit, next class we'll see. We
Yeah,
will see from here.
yeah.
That is also fine. Why will be in a hurry actually? Yeah.
No, it's
You also take a break actually.
no problem. Just 1 second. I'll do it.
Uh, uh, okay. Yeah. As you wish. Yeah.
So how we can get it if you are not sure about any package? The best way to Google it, right? So I can
Yeah, because Google is there, na? So,
zip utility Unix command utility in Linux. Okay. Zip utility. So what you can just I can say install zip in Linux. If there are any link, you just go, they have given. Okay, zip and zip. Yum install zip and zip. What is this? They are even very simple. Oh my god, I'm stupid actually. You guys did not tell me also. Yeah, I'm forgetting to add yum package manager, right? I'm just typing only install. How it will work? It should be yum install, right? You are not watching
yeah.
the screen. I also forgot, and you also. Okay, okay. Now it is.
No, we're watching you. So what we're thinking, whatever you are writing, no, that is correct only. So
No, guys,
that
sometimes I
is
could be wrong, right? So you have to tell these are the basic
human error. Yeah.
no, and also these
Uh,
are the basic things. And yum
uh,
install because without package manager it will not install. That's why
uh,
it's not installing. So I did not see this error also. The install is invalid option, right? Install should be not be there. Okay, now unzip is
uh,
installed. Now what I'm going to do unzip this one. So okay, so unzip. Okay, now I unzipped everything. These are the things you have to work in DevOps as well. Okay, now this folder is having all the project. So cd java, get it. Okay, so if when I did this, I have docker file, I have this docker compose.yaml file. Okay, if I do cat whatever I just discussed, everything is there. Okay, so same thing
yeah.
is here, version 2 and all. So what I'm going to use guys here, only to use docker compose only one command, docker hyphen compose, okay, hyphen d, sorry, op op hyphen d. This is the only one command you have to use to start up all the services. This is the only one command. If I go and check this one, so I have used docker compose op to create or start the container. Okay, so here is also very good things to understand. Actually, whenever you use docker compose, you should be in the same context area where the docker compose.yaml file available, or else this op command will not work. Okay, and here op and
Mm.
hyphen d, I'm just using the detached mode. That means in the background I don't have to see any logs.
Background.
So the first time, let me show you the logs, how it will be look like. Just hit enter. Okay, so what it says, cannot be connect to the Docker daemon. So our Docker is stopped or what? System. Okay, so it should be sudo su. Okay, I should be under sudo docker compose auth.
Today, okay.
See what the first pulling MySQL databases. Okay, first created the network, then created the volumes, first created the network MySQL default, and then created the volume Java Tomcat MySQL persistent. Okay, what happened then? The steps what it did, see from Tomcat, what it pulled everything from the server. Okay, because the Tomcat 8.5 is not available, so it is just try to pull out the things from, and here also same thing it did. I just did it to show you how the logs look like. This is just simply building the things and pulling the images and creating the container. Now here the things happens actually. Now it is trying to link everything. Okay. Now this is for my PHP, my Apache. Okay. Apache, my admin. If I would have run in -d option, you
Yeah,
will not have seen anything. Okay. So I
you will
just,
not see this because it will just.
yeah, now see all try DB1 it created, and also Tomcat servers, everything is getting created now, and it is getting connected. Okay, done. All I think have done successfully. So now how we'll access our containers? Let's see whether how many containers created. Okay, now if I go here, let me go here, just try to
Another terminal.
the terminal, just try to connect back to the system. Okay. Okay, now if I do here docker container
Container ls.
docker container ls, see we have the image being used, this one, and the container, how many containers created guys? There are three containers, one for Tomcat server, that is the
Three
URL,
containers.
and then this PHP myadmin, and then MySQL database container. Three containers are running, and here you can see the port 8282 8080, all the containers and everything are off. Now how can I access this application? Because my application UI is running on this container, right, this container. So I need to access this application. How I'll access? I have to just get the IP addresses. I've just accessed the IP addresses here. Okay, just get the IP address, and our
Yeah,
UI is running on port number 8282, right? We had given port number 8282. So our port 8282 will not have firewall access. So if I go to the security group, it will not have the firewall open for the 8282. Before that, see, I don't have any 8282, so I have
you
to
need to add.
add it. Okay, so you have to be
Add it.
careful.
Mhm.
Don't worry, because these things you are doing your demo and practices, so you are doing alone by yourself. But in your company organization, everything will be there, so the firewall is already will have already opened for you, so you can use it. Okay, now I'm going to whitelist another. So it should be you don't have anything, so you have to write custom TCP 8282. Okay, and anywhere, and same thing also I can give 8383 and 3306. Those things also needs to be given, right? 8383.
It needs to be added. Yeah, you can.
So anywhere IP port, and also the database things also running, right? So you have to give MySQL. You can MySQL Aurora, so it is 3306. Just give for anywhere. That's fine. Now let's save rules. Okay, so all the ports are given. Now if I go here and hit enter, so our application name will be, you have to give login wave. Ah, hit enter. See, our container is running now. This is the
Uh,
UI. This is the UI which I just
UI.
created, because this is the login web app is the
Mm.
application name. If you go here, this is login web app. See, login web app. This is the application login web app. The folder, the war file. How your question will come, right? How will know this login web app? The applications whatever you have uploaded to the path web apps folder. So it will create a folder called login web app, and in this folder all the application file will be available. Okay, so now what happens? You have this login file, right? Now if I want to use the 8383, let's see whether our Apache PHP admin is working or not. So 8383, hit enter. Wow, PHP admin also working fine. So this is also our container which is having the
Mhm.
8383 admin. So what is the username? Username I had given Ranjit, and the password I have given Sunday@2019.
Mm.
Wow, our application.
Sure.
This is the
Yeah,
application
yeah.
is running in the container. Okay. Now, if I go
Uh-huh.
to this DevOps class, this is the database also created. The table also the database name was DevOps class. Okay. If I go to this DevOps class, we have one table created as user. This is the table created as user. If I go, I don't have
Users.
anything, right? Now let's
No
add
users.
something in this. What is our, okay? Let me go to another part. It is 82,
Yeah, that
82.
web apps.
Login web apps. Login web app. Enter. Now let me, because I don't have any user ID password. Now I'm going to register myself first. This application. So in the register, let me give full name. Anything Ranjit, the last name. So email. I just gave any username. Submit. If everything fine, then it will be registered. Okay. Submit.
Yeah, yeah.
Or if there is some Java error, it will throw Java exceptions. Okay.
Hmm.
There's some issues. That's why it is not getting registered.
Next page it's not coming.
Hmm. Okay, next person. Okay, it's taking some time. This project,
It's
guys,
in
will be
process.
available. Okay, this project will be available in the my GitHub repositories. If you are practicing, you can download this or fork it. Okay, you can get it. Clone my repository and so work on that. So if you see here, when I have login web app, and here you'll find lots of see. Okay, this login web app I think is related to our Kubernetes project. Okay, I'll not show you. Oh, okay. Hmm. Docker file. There is different Docker files and Jenkins. This is also related to the Jenkins. I have written it here. Okay. I'll show you one project on the Jenkins, right? So this project was created for Jenkins. Okay. Now let's leave it. Let's see
Mhm.
what happens in this registry. Registering is not working. Okay. Okay, guys, this is a big project actually, so we have to use definitely Jenkins to build. Okay, what is the error, guys? Why it is not connecting? Can anybody tell? And why I told why we need Jenkins to do that? If nobody from development background, right? I think Tapanwai is from development background, and is why my
Huh.
application is not running. I have my Java applications, but when I try to connect, my Java application is still loading, but it's not connecting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think
So that binary missing or
no. Let me do that. No, 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 no. What I was thinking. Okay, so we have user table is created, right? Now let me suppose add some user here.
mm,
What I can do, I can here is very easiest way to install insert it. I can just insert few user here, or you can just write small syntax, SQL syntax. Uh, what is the command actually? It is how many user ID, first name, last name, email, username, password, and registration date. Everything was there, but why it is not running? Okay, let me try one more time. It should be run sheet. So let me try to insert anything. So what is the query to insert into table? Insert into
insert
user. Okay, is table insert.
table name?
Yeah, insert into table values. Okay, so I'm going to use the first thing is the name, right? So it will be in double quote, comma, double quote, comma, then name, email, username, password. I think everything will be character. Okay. So suppose name is French, the last name, so email, right? Test.com, and here user ID, suppose French, password also French. Now let's, is this correct syntax? Match value counted. It's a current syntax. The column count does
Right.
match. How many columns? It's a 3 to 5, right?
One,
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3, 5. Yeah.
Okay, if I go okay, so I can get it right from the dump SQL file, right? Here it is given. So first name, last name, one, two. Okay, first one ID is missing, so it should be 6. That's why what it's the error is. Error. Okay, that's throwing error. Okay, okay, that's good. Actually, it throws the error. That should be fine. One thing, guys,
Mm-hmm.
why I told you right, it will be because why it did not connect. Actually, see the IP address. The code needs to be rebuilt. That's why I was telling to rebuild in the Jenkins. It is trying the database, the JDBC
Mm-hmm.
the Java JDBC driver, right? Database connectivity driver is trying to connect to this IP, and this IP does not exist. It was built in my old project. The IP does not exist. No, I need to reset this IP with
Mm-hmm.
something else, right? Then it will work.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
That's why it is not connect.
Uh,
Even though I try to here,
uh,
try to execute it. Let me try to execute it one, and it will also not do. It will also not connect. Let's see. See. Anyway,
mm,
some error will come definitely. It will be not connect because the IP address is totally different. Okay. Now what I'm going to
mm,
do here, tomorrow classes, not tomorrow, next classes, what we'll do entirely the CI part, continuous integrations. Will again learn again. Will create a project on Jenkins. Then I'll not manually build anything. I'll not manually build on Java project. I'll show you how to build. This is a real-time project, guys. We are going to do CI/CD again. Now what we'll do continuous integration. as well as continuous deployment into the container. That things we are going to do it. So in the next class we'll see one project that is related to our Jenkins. We'll build whatever the project is here given, right? That will rebuild everything. So if I go to this file, if you go to this register.jsp, you will find that the register.jsp, right? Success register, user registration. You see here, okay, this is fine, this is correct. Okay, this should be actually using the DB. The IP, instead of the IP address, it should use the DB. It should use the DB as the service name. Then the JDBC
Okay.
driver will connect it. Okay, then the JDBC driver will connect it. But in our case, it is the error. What it says, it is throwing this one. That means this application, whatever I used it, is having this IP address as this one. That means this is the world IP addresses. Okay. Now
Old
in the
IP.
next classes, we'll modify our code and we'll rebuild it. Okay. I'll just create a file, create
Mhm.
one project in the GitHub, and then that project will try to. I'll show you the entirely from source code management to Jenkins and then Docker. The three things in the next. Don't miss the Saturday's class. Okay, that will be very important.
Yeah.
That will learn Jenkins and Docker entirely, the entire flow and new projects to do that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Do you have anything to discuss? We can wind up the call.